I don't see it all that often. And I guess it could be a good strategy in some ways. I don't know. I feel skeevy about it, right? That's just my personal thing because I don't do dual agency and I'm not going to represent them. And I feel kind of awkward giving somebody advice. All right, are you giving everybody else that advice as well? Because you're not representing that person. So, the way our kind of system has worked is like, all right, if you tell one person what to write, then you've got to tell kind of everybody else and not favor one person or one side. And so that's where I would feel as a real estate agent that I'm not doing a fair job to everybody else that is in this scenario.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to go through some Reddit home buyer advice. Wow, what a scary sentence.
Oh, yeah.
Getting home buyer advice from people on Reddit. So there was a recent thread on the Nova subreddit.
Okay.
So all about Northern Virginia on what people were doing to win properties. Basically, if you bought a property recently, what was the breakdown? How did it look? Did you go over asking? What sort of things stood out? So I pulled a couple comments, and I wanted to get your expert advice on these comments. So start with the first one. BTPie39, I'm going to include usernames, says,
Heck yeah.
They bought in Falls Church in 2022, 2.4% earnest money deposit, all contingencies waived, offered $75,000 over. Not our best financial decision in hindsight, but we'll be here for at least 7 years total. So it is what it is. Now, I want you to kind of break down each one of those aspects and kind of dive deep into your thoughts on something like that.
First of all, let me say that the market is crazy, was crazy in 2022, 2023, 2024, right? We know that.
Right. So we're kind of back. Some of these are 2022, so these may or may not apply to 2024, but we'll certainly say when it does.
Yeah. So they went, and he says, not my best financial decision, but we'll be here for 7 years. That's a key point. Number one, 2.2 or 4% earnest money deposit. That's fine. That's really not that high. And it depends on, how big that property was, how expensive it was. But if it's a Falls Church townhouse, it's probably under $700,000 or something like that, right? So you're thinking 14, 15, maybe $20,000 earnest money deposit. That's kind of normal. We see that all the time. $75,000 over asking price. They bid that, and I'm assuming they got it at $75,000 over asking price. If we're talking about a $700 and some $1,000 property, that's about 10% over ask. And you know what? We're still seeing that right now. So I don't think it was a bad financial decision for you back in 2022. We can go back and look at markets and think, wow, man, like when we were seeing that in 2022, we were like, holy cow, these people are going nuts. They're going way over. We might never see this again. Are these prices going to stand? And now 2 years later, we're like, man, that was a great decision. It was a great decision to go that far above because the prices have kept going. Even though we've seen the interest rate spike and everything else, we are still seeing rising prices. And that's all due to low inventory. And, it depends on what you're buying and what you bought. Condos, not as much. We're seeing low inventory, but we didn't see the spikes in prices like we did. But the single family and townhouse market, we definitely saw, and we're still seeing to this day. So one, I don't think it was a bad financial decision. At the time, it's very scary to do. But the other thing that backs you up is, I went $75,000 over ask, but so did all the other people that pushed you up that high. So there was that demand, and there were enough people to say, well, if I needed to, I could probably sell it tomorrow, lose a little bit, but I'd still be okay. So,
well, we don't know if it was a good or not financial decision without looking at their finances, right? But the fact that they're based in you. What do you got?
No, that's a really good point. Now, I don't know if it was, maybe you extended yourself. If you extended yourself, that's never a good financial decision, because if you're, you have to stay in there 7 years, or you're staying in there 7 years, make sure that you can make that payment, right? So that might have been maybe your stupid financial decision. But I think the other key is staying for 7 years. We have seen markets go up and down and up and down. And if you think about maybe the 2008 crash, okay, 2008 crash, and it was down for a long time, and it took a long time to come back. But 7 years later, we were pretty good. In 2015, we were seeing prices pretty much back to where we were. So yeah, we'll see these quick dips, but we'll also see quick rises, and those rises usually over time come back and then exceed what we have seen in the past. So real estate has always been a good financial decision, and the key is you have to stay long, or longer than just 2 or 3 years, to make some money.
Yeah, I think, if this person were to stay like 30 years, they may find out that this is like their best financial decision. But I'm going to go in another direction, because 2.4% EMD, that's low.
Yeah.
Like, we got to start at least 3%. And some people will say that earnest money doesn't matter, but if you're offering $75K over asking price, there's probably a lot of other offers, and every little detail is going to matter. So if you're only doing 2.4, hats off for winning the offer, but I'm advising all of my clients to do at least 3% or higher.
Yeah, if you're in a competitive contract situation, every detail matters. And some people were saying, oh, EMD, who cares about the EMD? It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And I have been in contract situations where my clients went way above, and we were basically the winning offer. We won by $10,000, but still my EMD was lower than the other one. And they're like, when the buyer or the seller's looking at it and saying, man, if they back out, I want more money. So we had to up our EMD to get it. And that was upwards of $100,000 in some instances. So don't listen to all the comments. Know and speak to a professional about this, and the details matter. EMDs definitely do.
All right, let's move to the next comment. This is from CJT09. I have friends who bought in Arlington and Alexandria in 2022. They both paid a substantial amount, 5 figures in parentheses, above asking, and waived all contingencies. I think they said their EMD was about $20K or so. They both did pre-offer walk and talk inspections. The big downside with these is that you need to be able to schedule with extremely short notice, and you're out several hundreds of dollars for the inspection, even if you don't win. Shawn, for this one, what strikes me is the commenter said they both paid a substantial amount above the asking, and then said 5 figures. 5 figures is not substantial. No. If you're bidding in Arlington or Alexandria, we see those properties go like $100,000 over the asking price quite frequently. So either this commenter misunderstood, or they just don't have a grasp of the real estate market. Additionally, they said the earnest money deposit was about $20K or so, which now I'm going to backtrack and say maybe these people weren't buying houses, they were buying townhomes or condos, because if your EMD is only $20,000 or so, you're going to be below $1 million and probably closer to $500,000, where, all right, if you are buying like a townhome in Alexandria for like $500,000, yeah, maybe a substantial amount over asking is 5 figures.
Yeah, it's all relative. So you've got to look at the numbers and look at what the actual purchase price is. And at a $500,000 townhouse, say up in Alexandria, up in Kingstown, a $20,000 deposit is pretty good for that. It's 4% of the actual price. So it's all relative. So a $20,000 deposit on a $2 million place, not so good. But on a $500,000 place, you can see where the difference is. But going back to the walk and talk, what else are you going to do, right? This is the climate we're in, and walk and talks are very informative. You have a limited time, but it depends on how big the house is. But we do them, and we have to do them. And I would rather do a walk and talk than do nothing. And if you are doing a walk and talk, you're going to look at the components that matter. You're going to look at your foundation, your HVAC system, your roof. Those are the 3 components that at least you got to be looking at. Your electrical systems and, your basic plumbing things. You're not going to go into intricate detail and flush toilets and make sure that your faucet isn't dripping. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at big financial things that could affect you in the future. And I think that's the key. You've got to let go of the little items in these cases, because if you're going 5 figures over in this instance, you're going 5 figures over, what's it matter if there's a few $100s of fixes? You want to go after the foundation stuff, the roof stuff. Those are, $10,000, $100,000, whatever it is, whatever the fix is. Those are the things we're worried about. In when you're in this competition, it's this competitive market, the little things don't matter. It's the big things that you want to focus on. And that's what walk and talks do.
Right. I mean, I was on an open house the other day, and a buyer came in and they said, oh, yeah, I love the house, but, it looks like they haven't done this. The carpet needs, to be stretched or replaced, and then these things aren't done. And then the husband was like, well, the next buyer that comes in here is not going to care about those things. And I was like, well, that's a very based way of looking at it. It's exactly correct.
Yeah, and those kind of, like, if you're looking at a property, and now when I'm listing a property, I'm always saying we need to paint, we need to get carpet in here, recarpet, whatever. I say that because I want my listings to look the best, and I want to get the best contract possible. And I say, if you put $10,000 into this house, it's going to yield you a lot more than that, because you don't want to scare away people from paint. But then if I'm a buyer, representing a buyer, I'm like, listen, who cares about the carpet? Who cares about the paint? We can get this done for 10 grand. You know what I mean? Just get the property, and then we'll put this in, and we'll have the contractors in there soon, right after you settle, and it'll look brand new. So if you're a buyer and you can look past the little bit of ugly in a property, you can get a deal. You can get a better deal than going after the shiny, amazing thing. Because honestly, there's a lot of lazy sellers out there, and there's a lot of lazy listing agents out there. They don't want to put forward the work. They don't want to hire the contractors to come in and do it. They don't want to be burdened by it. And those are the ones that typically sell for a little bit less, because buyers right now, most of them want everything done for them. What do you think?
I think the waiving the home inspection on a 1940s house is dangerous. I think that it's easy to get caught up in the pandemonium of multiple offers, deadlines, buying a house, 2 open houses. I kind of like the home inspection for void-only purposes. I kind of like, hey, we're going to give you $100K over asking. We're going to waive the appraisal. We're going to waive the financing contingency, and we'll do it for void-only purposes. Shawn, if you were the listing agent and you got 2 offers, and let's say I'm, at 1.5, okay, and the next highest offer is at, I don't know, 1.45, like a not insignificant amount of money, okay? Theirs is all contingencies waived, no home inspection. Mine is home inspection for void only. That's the only difference. Everything else is the same. What are you doing in that offer scenario?
I'm countering one of them.
You're countering. All right. So if you counter them, what are you going to say? Can you come up to 1.5, or can you meet in the middle?
I'll probably
the lower
meet in the middle.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, listen, I have an offer that's higher than you, but they want to do a home inspection, and will you come up to X? So it might be like 1.48, right, instead of 1.5, or
but I'm higher, so you'd probably come to me first and say, hey, listen, we got multiple offers. We can't do a home inspection.
Yeah, you got to waive this.
You got to waive. So like what I'm getting at is, I don't think the home inspection for void only is going to be the end all be all. But at the same time, it's like, dude, I'm thinking logically. I'm thinking like everyone else is going to think my way. It's like, dude,
you can't think logically a lot of times.
We're scheduling showings. There's one 15-minute block available from Thursday to Saturday. And my buyer's like, well, we can do it, but do you think there's going to be a deadline? Like, do you think they would take it off the market? And I'm like, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I can barely schedule a showing. They're getting showings out of the West. There's no way they're going to... And then it's off the market the next day.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why would you take the property off the market
so stupid,
when you're getting 60 showings in 48 hours?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the void only?
On the void only, I mean, if you want to win, you in this market, you can't put a void only. You can't do it. I mean, like... Because they're going to find problems. And I think the one thing that home sellers are afraid of is when an inspector comes through a house. It's a fear. Unless your house is impeccable and it's brand new and whatever, and you've got nothing to worry about it. But if you're selling a 1940s, 1950s, you have to disclose what's wrong with the house that you know of. But there's a lot of things that homeowners don't know that are wrong with their houses. And when you have a professional come through there, and some of these inspectors are tough, they will scare the bejesus out of people, right? Like when it's nothing to be scared about, sometimes they scare them. And so that's the worst case scenario. You do not want to have to come back on the market after somebody voids and they wrote you this extremely great offer. The hardest thing to do is try to get that thing back under contract. Like, all right, tail between the legs. All right, hey, you still want this house? Oh, sorry, my buyers went to somebody else. They already bought something else. So your best time to get the hype is always that first weekend when everybody's after it. And the hype kind of settles after that. And so you grab the best one with all the best scenario for you, in my opinion. And you counter if you need to counter to get somebody to waive it or to get the better price. That's personally what I would be doing. So.
Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below and hit the thumbs up button if you're liking this discussion. Shawn, let's move on to the next comment. This is from the Big Drizzle.
Big Drizzle.
This will be an unpopular opinion. Worked for us, though. Find the houses you're interested in and call the selling agent. By the way, when they say selling agent, I think what they mean is actually listing agent.
Correct.
Selling agent is the buyer's agent. Let them know you're unrepresented and willing to use them as your buying agent if you like the house. Hard to lose when the agent has a personal interest in the transaction. Shawn, the floor is yours. Where to begin?
Oh, man.
The Big Drizzle.
The Big Drizzle, man.
Hey, it worked for the Big Drizzle.
Did it? Hey, Big Drizzle, did it actually work for you to call the listing agent to do this? Because I think this is the really bad advice. And, okay, I'm biased. I'm an agent, blah, blah, blah.
But what if you're the listing agent and someone calls you? How does that work?
If I'm the listing agent, first of all, I don't have dual agency.
You do unrepresented. It's the same thing,
Well, I
but
guess you
without
could.
the risk.
I guess you could.
So
I don't know,
they
man.
say, I'm going to use you as my agent. Like, what is it going to take to win? Or like, or whatever you want to do with the commission, or just tell me what I need to do to win.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just not my game. I don't usually typically represent or write a contract for somebody that calls me. And honestly, this doesn't happen often to me. So if that happens to me, if somebody calls on my listing, I'm like, hey, teammate, Matt, whoever it is on my team, can you take this lead and write the contract and represent that person? So I don't see it all that often, and I guess it could be a good strategy in some ways. I don't know. I feel skeevy about it, right? That's just my personal thing because I don't do dual agency and I'm not going to represent them. And I feel kind of awkward giving somebody advice. All right, are you giving everybody else that advice as well? Because you're not representing that person. So, the way our kind of system has worked is like, all right, if you tell one person what to write, then you've got to tell kind of everybody else and not favor one person or one side. And so that's where I would feel as a real estate agent that I'm not doing a fair job to everybody else that is in this scenario. So, don't call me if you want to win the deal and you want me to write an offer or represent you, because I'm not doing dual agency and I would feel awkward in trying to get that through. That's just me. That's the way I sleep at night. I don't want to take advantage of somebody else for the benefit of somebody else in those instances. If I'm disclosing to you what the best offer is, then I'm disclosing to pretty much everybody what the best offer is. That's me.
I think there's this misconception out there that people think realtors are going to give everything away for one transaction, right? They're just going to, they're going to say, oh, well, the realtor has a personal interest in the transaction. Dude, well, all right. So there's 2,100 agents that did a deal in Arlington last year. That's like my new favorite stat. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But the reality is most of the agents are doing lots of transactions. And you can say, oh, well, the average agent only did one. Well, that's usually because they're buyer's agents. The listing agents in Northern Virginia, which from previous episodes, is one of the smartest areas in the world and in the United States. These listing agents have their ish together. And so if you're a buyer, it's got to be exhausting to follow up with every single different listing agent. Some people call you, some people text you, voicemail. This is going to be a bad way to go about the business. And think about it. If you come across a listing agent that is willing to divulge information to you that they wouldn't divulge to other parties because they have a personal interest in the transaction, what could they be hiding from the transaction, right? Like, they're even more motivated to close. So maybe if they're willing to bend their ethics on that, are they willing to bend the ethics on when the roof was replaced or when the HVAC was replaced or some other sort of part of the transaction that could come back to bite you?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. What's his name? Drizzy?
The Big Drizzle.
The Big Drizzle. Yeah, man, go get a buyer's agent. Have them represent you. Write a strong offer. Get a buyer's agent that knows the area, that knows the neighborhood that you want to buy in. And go on their advice. I mean, that's the best thing to do, because you're going to have to, like Matt was saying, do you really want to call? Oh, I'm going to call this listing agent now, see how many offers they have. Didn't get that one. I'm going to call this guy. It's exhausting. And who's going to show you the property? And are you just going to use Zillow and say, all right, I'll use Zillow, and now I'm going to go use it? It's just a bad way of doing it. And it's annoying, honestly, to us listing agents or buyer's agents that are working this system every day, showing properties, and there's people calling us that want to see a property, and then they go and do something like this, right? Oh, thanks for showing me the property. No, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to call the listing agent, So it's just, don't do it.
Also, in a multiple offer scenario, is that the buyer that's going to have the strongest offer?
No, and that's the other thing. If you're doing that, you're not the strongest buyer. I'm telling you right now. It's like you're after the dollar, the little dollar, or they're like, can you give me some commission of your commission because you're getting double the commission? Or whatever
Meanwhile,
it is.
you're like the 8th best offer.
It's like, dude, at this point, man, I have a lot of stress going on. We got a lot of things going on. There's a lot of wheels turning here. And when you have 20 offers or 15 offers sitting in front of you, it's very stressful to figure that out. And I'm not adding more stress to figure your stuff out, and have to call all these other people. Oh yeah, there's an unrepresented buyer that bought it. Oh, did you write the contract? Yeah. I mean, like no way. I'm not doing it. So drizzle, whatever it is, go get a buyer's agent.
That's the big drizzle to you, sir. All right, let's move on to our next commenter. Bert Boxer says, bought a townhouse in Sterling that had been sitting without an offer for 6 months, $30K under asking. Turns out the flipping company didn't realize they had it listed everywhere as a condo when it very much wasn't. And our agent knew the neighborhood had no condo fees. Those house flipping groups are a blight, but at least they make mistakes. Keep an eye out for listings that don't match up with the neighborhood. Shawn, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are mistakes made in listings, and I've definitely seen them. There are people that put on listings that shouldn't be putting on listings, that don't know anything about the property. There's assistants that put on listings that, you check the wrong box, it's going to totally screw up the property. So it's up to the managing agent or the actual listing agent to oversee this. And if it was a flipping company, who is their agent? Are they also a licensed agent? And did they actually put it in wrong? I would say that this is rare that you actually put it in as a condo. And was that the real reason that it wasn't getting eyes? Because I would say that when a property comes up in the market in an area, so you're doing a map search, right? And it's still going to show unless you ticked that you only want no condo.
Say no condo.
Search.
A lot of people want to do that.
A lot of people want to do that. But if it's a single family area or a townhouse area.
Well, what if it's a townhouse style? What if there's Huntley Meadows has a lot of the piggyback where it kind of looks like a townhouse?
Yeah.
Dude, I see this every single week, even in Arlington. Usually it's the other way around where it's a condo accidentally listed as fee simple or accidentally listed as other. Because the issue with this is, when a condo is listed as fee simple, you just go down to the next box and you move on. But if it's a townhouse that you accidentally check as condo, well, then you have condo fee.
Yeah.
But I guess if it was a townhouse, potentially they had an HOA fee, so they just punched in HOA fee as the condo fee and then thought nothing of it.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if you do it that way, it's definitely going to hurt your listing. And there are so many things that hurt listings when I go look through. I'm like, man, if they would have just done it this way or done it this way, that's why it's sitting on the market. There's definitely problems in listings. And the funny thing is, you're right. It's like, I'll look through places and I'm looking for a condo and I'm like, this isn't fee simple. Do you guys understand what fee simple is? Fee simple is a house. It's a standing unit, a standing home, or a townhouse. A condo is it's two totally different things, and to confuse that, you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
So the condo is a type of ownership. So you can't look at a property and immediately tell if it's a condo, because there are 2-story condos, there are 3-story condos.
There are houses that are condos.
There are houses
so you have to be careful, because you're right, it's the type of ownership. So the condominium then oversees, and you have to pay a condo fee, and they control the water and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times, I've seen houses that are in condo associations. I've seen townhouses, naturally, townhouses in condo associations. So you have to be careful on how you're putting that in. So to go back to his point, I hope he did get it for that reason. I hope they totally did screw up and it wasn't getting a lot of showings and it was sitting on the market because it was listed wrong. I mean, that's just, and that just goes right back to the listing agent or the flipping company that didn't know what they were doing. And it goes back to us saying this industry is a huge learning curve and there are big mistakes that you can make that could cost your clients thousands of dollars, cost your listings, cost you, not being able to sleep at night. So be careful when you're getting into this industry that you have a mentor or you have somebody showing you what to do because you can easily make quick mistakes.
Next comment is from Second Round Shoe. Your willingness to overpay and waive all contingencies is just exacerbating the problem. This is a recipe for disaster if you end up with a lemon due to rising construction and remodeling costs. A guy I work with just sold his DIY nightmare house in Ashburn for $100K over asking, and the poor buying family waived the inspection and all contingencies. They are royally screwed. Shawn, when I see this, your willingness to overpay and waive all contingencies is just exacerbating the problem. This seems to me like a don't hate the player, hate the game. Mm-hmm. Like one person overbidding, two people overbidding, it's not going to make a difference because there's 20 more people in line that want to pay the same exact price or something close to it. So we can't just cross our arms and in this capitalistic market and society that we live in and just all agree, what are we going to price fix as consumers that we're not going to bid on the house of our dreams that comes? No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and as for a guy I work with, DIY nightmare house in Ashburn for $100K over asking, and they waived all. I mean, listen, there's a lot of risk involved in buying the property, and if you're going 100 over asking, and if you're waiving the contingencies, I hope you know the pros, and I hope you know the cons. And 100K over Ashburn, I'd be very curious to see what that gets you.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this. First of all, yeah, I've definitely had people in the past that say, I'm not competing. I will not compete. Guess what? You're going to compete. In this area, you're most likely going to compete. And so if you're not willing to, then get out of the game. This guy's probably a renter and he's just sitting there saying, I'm not going to, why would you do this? This is crazy. But, if you're actually looking and actually in the market and you're wanting to make an investment in your future and your kids' future and your family, then you will take these risks and everybody behind you is taking that risk. So yeah, you're right about that. Don't go out on this guy's advice. Where I, it's always hearsay, right? It's like, my friend had a DIY house and they bought it. Oh, I feel so bad for them. Well, do you know that for sure? Do you know that for sure? And if it was a DIY house, what was he doing with that DIY house? Was he painting it? Who cares if he's painting it? But if he's doing some sort of construction project in his house, well, he has to get permits to do that. And so if he's finishing his basement with his DIY project, well, sometimes you can go through and if it was a newly redone basement or something like that, you can go and look in the county records to see if there were permits pulled on those. And if there weren't, then, again, there are things that you can do when you're buying a house that maybe you should research a little bit more before you put that offer in. But just saying, oh, I feel bad for these people because you bought a DIY house. What level of DIY are we talking? And so it's just these scary little things that people dart out there that say, buyer beware. You got to watch. You do. You have to be careful. And that's why you do a walk and talk. And that's why you get a professional in there to look at it and say, you know what? I think this is a DIY place. That'll let the inspector tell you that. I can tell by, the studs aren't, whatever, how many inches apart, or, this electrical is a little sketchy or whatever. So the inspector will find that. And that's why you do the walk and talks. They can find that out pretty quickly.
Shawn, next commenter is AnnYoung_cat says, why do people worry about above asking? That's such a rookie move. We paid tens of thousands above asking and exactly what people paid for a nearly identical house down the block 3 weeks prior. We knew what our house would cost regardless of what the sellers were asking. And homeowners in the area will often underprice just to start bidding wars. Stop looking at asking price and start looking at comps. That's what you're going to have to pay. We also did a local lender with a 10-day close and 20% down, which is what differentiated us from other bidders submitting nearly identical bids.
Yeah, I mean, that's solid advice. You have to know that you're going to be paying a lot of money, right? And here is a scary thing for a listing agent is pricing that thing correctly, because we're trying to figure out what is the actual value. And if you look at a recent comp and you say, oh, well, that one sold this much higher, well, now we're going to price that right at that amount. That's a scary thing to do, because you know what? Those people pushed it up to that high. So where do you price it? Do you price it where they priced it originally or where they ended up? And so, or maybe somewhere in the middle. And so, yeah, sometimes the listings can be underpriced, but you do have to look at those comparable sales to make sure that you're in line. Or what I try to do is I call the listing agent. I'm like, hey, can you give me kind of a background of what happened to you, the place you have under contract? Anything you can share with me would be very helpful. And sometimes they'll give you that information like, hey, yeah, we're going, we're priced at $700,000, but we're actually going to $800,000. And, I got no contingencies. So that right there tells me that now my client has to go probably to 800 or a little higher and no contingency. So now we prepare. And this is another reason that, you have to get into these properties as soon as you can. We started doing a coming soon status. I was never big into the coming soon statuses, but now I'm like, you know what? I like to just do a coming soon for like 5 days, because 5 days, yeah, it's announcing the listing. One problem I have with like a long coming soon period is like you're putting yourself out there too much, right? Too long. But 5 days, it gives you a little bit of time to say, all right, let's test the market and test our price and see if we're getting calls and see if we're getting showings for when we do hit the market. And if you are, then something's good. But can't remember my point now, but I mean, it's important to do your research, to make the calls to those listing agents, to see if you can get the information. The more information you can have, the better off you're going to be, and make that appointment to see the house the first day it's on the market so that you can then schedule a walk and talk if the time's available.
Shawn, they mentioned comps. This is actually a tough time of year to look at comps, and especially if you go under contract and you waive your appraisal, it's tough to find properties that have closed, right? Because you can't really use properties that closed last summer. There hasn't really been a lot of properties that closed in the fall, and maybe those ones that did close in the fall and winter, maybe they just weren't the best comps. And then the new properties that are coming on the market this year, maybe they haven't closed yet. So if you're bidding on a property in the early spring, I guess it's February, early spring, and you go under contract and you're above the asking price, well, then that appraiser, where are they going to find the comps? Because oftentimes some of the best properties come online, in February, in March, and then we're stuck trying to find these comps that maybe don't exist, just simply because they haven't closed yet. So, I wouldn't say caution, but I would certainly advise that, it's a tough time of year for comps, and as things progress, the appraisers are going to find more comps. But yeah, that's something I came across recently.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, there are times a year when prices skyrocket, which is spring, but that early spring market, we're coming off of December and January. There were no, very few listings, very few sales during that time frame. And so the comps aren't going to be the same in December, January, February as they are in March, April, and May. They're just not, because it's a total different market. You're seeing a lot more buyers come in, and there's a competitive spirit at that time. And so you're right. Whenever an appraiser is looking at these old comps, they're like from January, from February. They're not the same market. And so when you and these appraisers sometimes can be really tough, really strict. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, whatever. But they're also, I believe, going on the knowledge and the know-how that the market is increasing. So they might give a little leeway on that. But the other thing is, the important thing is if you are waiving your appraisal or waiving your finance contingency, knowing that it could come in low and having the funds or the wherewithal or the percentage down that you can still do the deal. Because, if you're waiving that and it comes in low, you're still buying the house, or you're losing your deposit, you're getting sued. So make sure that you can do it. And the key is, if you're putting a lot down, a lot of times the bank will just give you an appraisal waiver up to a certain point. So what we'll do is I'll call the lender and say, hey, can I get an appraisal waiver up to X? And they'll run it through the system, and they're like, yeah, I got an appraisal waiver. The appraisal waiver will only come if you're putting over 20% down and you're good credit, A paper people. And if you get that, then you're good, you're solid. And so that is what these people are doing to win the deals by waiving the appraisals and waiving finance.
Let's move on to our last commenter. This is from Am Attorney. Please hire. EMT doesn't mean a damn thing. If you want your offer to win, yes, offer above listing. Waive contingencies. It's a 100,000% seller's market. It was a lot of zeros. Seller's market. And most good homes receive 10 plus offers in the first few weeks. Only way to differentiate is cash and no contingencies above list. I'm a Virginia real estate attorney. I do closings every day of my life. 95% plus of the advice to your post is awful or incorrect. So, Am Attorney, please hire, coming out swinging on some of these comments. And clearly I've cherry-picked comments that I either thought was good advice, a good anecdote, bad advice. I think there were like hundreds of comments on the post. But, Shawn, to me, EMD doesn't mean a thing. I just think that's factually incorrect. I think it's a consideration. I think it's a low consideration. And how much breath are you wasting on the EMD? Like how in depth are you going on that? Because maybe they mean figuratively. It doesn't mean a lot, and you should just offer above list and waive contingencies. But I'm of the ilk where if you come out and have like $100,000 earnest money deposit, or do a non-refundable EMD, that can swing the gates in your favor.
100%, man. When you're writing these offers, doesn't matter. Hey, you're an attorney, man. You might be seeing these contracts come over, but when you're in the trenches like us, these EMDs matter. The deposit matters. And like I've said, I've won deals because when you say, I got $100,000, boom, here it is, non-refundable, and we're going to closing in 10 days. That's better than cash. It doesn't matter if you have a loan. Yeah, cash is king. Cash is great. But I can write a contract just as good as cash, if not better. And that's what people don't understand is if you do your due diligence and you get your lender in line and you know that you're getting the loan, you know that your appraisal doesn't matter because you're putting X amount down, and you put $100,000 deposit down, I'm beating the cash offer, and I've beat plenty of cash offers. It doesn't matter. So EMDs matter 100%. Don't listen to that advice. And if you're in competition, the higher the EMD, the better off you are. Now, you have to beat them in all the other zones. It's not, they have a $100,000 EMD. I'm going to take it because this one's higher in value, but this EMD, then it doesn't matter. You have to be higher in value. You have to meet all of the criteria of everybody else and then hit them with a huge EMD. You're going to win.
10 plus offers. I don't think I've come across 10 plus offers. Most of the competition I've gone against has been 3, 6, 8. Was Diane 10 plus offers? Have you done 10 plus offers this year?
Not this year. No, I haven't.
Because, I'm going to say I feel, because I can't really back it up with statistics, but I feel like there are fewer offers on houses, but the offers that are written are by extremely well-qualified buyers, and they're really strong. They're not these weaker offers that you may have seen with lower interest rates. If you are in the market to buy a single-family house in the Beltway, you're coming in hot, and you're going to be coming in with a strong offer. So maybe at lower price points you would see 10 plus offer. Eli Tucker, that townhouse, in West Falls Church, but certainly I would say like above. I'm just going to throw out a number like above 700,000. I haven't really seen 10 plus offers.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the area, the price point. We are in an area right here that competition is fierce. Prices are hot, prices are high, but the people that are purchasing these properties are they're dialed in. If you have an agent that's teaching you how to write these contracts, they're dialed in, man. They've got good financing. When was the last time you had something fall out through financing? Like, it's been years and years for me for a financing contingency to fall out. So,
well, you said that Eric Solomon has a coming soon listing in Arlington for like 1.6. That's getting a ton of traffic. So maybe there's another jump, between 700 and 1.6, where once you get to like 1.4 to 1.7 single family renovated in Arlington, there's another pop there.
That's exactly it. And there's pockets. Really good point. In Arlington, a single family home that has been renovated between the price of 1.4 and 1.7 is really extremely hard to find. 1.3 to 1.7. That single family home market is so, it's either, you've got some that need work at 1.3 and under, or you've got the $2 million new homes, or, so that 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 is difficult to find. And there's a lot of people looking for it. And so that's where I think that if you've got that right home priced in that particular region, you probably will see the 10 plus offers. So we'll see. We'll update you next week to see what Eric gets.
Let us know your thoughts. Have you gone up against 10 plus offers? Drop them in the comments section below. Shawn, let's move on to in or out, whether you are in or out on a property in the United States. We're going to go to Lexington, Illinois. We have a 5-bed, 5-bathroom house. I'm going to call it a house. It's so much more than that. 9,000 square feet, priced at $4.5 million. Shawn, here's something truly out of the ordinary. An extraordinary offering of historical magnificence. This impeccably restored 1898 Victorian residence stands as a testament to timeless elegance and contemporary living. The expansive 42-acre canvas of breathtaking beauty boasts meticulously manicured grounds that illustrate an awe-inspiring visual spectacle that commands attention and admiration. Jeez, this reads like a tongue twister. I'm trying to fully enunciate each word. The stately 5-bedroom, 4.5-bathroom house is made up of intimately sized rooms across 3 floors, accessing a stunning floating staircase or original elevator. Shawn, let's get to the good stuff. Set on 55 acres of beautifully landscaped grounds, it includes a pool house, complement to the in-ground pool, the adjoining tennis court, a restored 36-passenger MTC train, and a vintage 36-horse carousel operate out of the 2 Morton commercial-grade buildings. The location is convenient to I-55, 10 miles from Bloomington Normal. Don't know what that is. And 120 miles from Chicago, just minutes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport and several other private airports. Hint, hint, wink, wink, if you have a PJ. Shawn, for $4.5 million, are you in or out on the Victorian home with a train and an elevator and a pool and a carousel and so much other wacky things?
Matt, my gosh, I don't know where to go here. First of all, Victorian style isn't typically my style. I don't want to live... My wife isn't going to wear this Victorian dress all day, and we're going to pretend like we're back in the old days.
Sip some tea.
You sip some tea. But it's a really intriguing and cool house. I mean, the place is amazing. It's manicured. The front porch is ridiculous. This reminds me of a property, I think I've talked about this before, in Old Town that I used to be a part owner of. It was called the French Lawler House. I actually saw the interior picture. I was like, wait, is that the French Lawler House? It's on Washington Boulevard in South Arlington or South Old Town. So it reminded me of that. And I'm pulled in different directions on this. I don't really care about the Victorian style, but at the same time, you can tell that this is really meticulously done. And it's also got its modern amenities. So it's got the pool. It's got a train. Hey, you can jump on the train. You have a carousel. There was a bulldozer in there. I mean, my kids would love this.
Bodie. Get Bodie on the bulldozer.
Yeah, his favorite song is Blippi's Bulldozer. I know, Matt, you won't have any idea what that means. Blippy.
I saw he just posted like a 10-year anniversary photo or something.
Do you know how much that guy's worth?
I'm scared to ask.
50-some, maybe more, millions and millions of dollars. The guy dresses up like Pee Wee Herman back in the day. He basically took Pee Wee Herman and he started doing his own videos. My son loves that show. Loves it.
Does your son watch Hi Rachel? Is that a person?
That doesn't hit me quickly.
Okay,
I don't, but probably.
It's like a person. It's like, I think it's baby learning with Miss Rachel.
Oh yeah, Miss Rachel.
I think it's more of like a baby rather than like a toddler.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she's probably just doing crazy numbers.
They bank so much money,
dude,
man.
What are we doing selling real estate? We should be making Blippy videos.
I know. When we started doing real estate videos, why didn't we do Blippy?
Everyone's having babies. Not everyone's buying a house.
I know, man. I'm true. All
right, let's get back to...
So I 45, 55 acres, whatever it is, meticulous grounds, train, carousel, pool, modern stuff. You got a modern looking boathouse, things like that. I don't know where in the heck in Illinois this thing is, but it's cool. It's unique. And I've got some money to blow today and I'm feeling good. So I'm buying it. I'm going to buy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going
it's
against,
weird, right?
against the grain of not liking Victorian.
Yeah.
So I'm, this is like right up my wheelhouse, right? I love Victorian. I love everything about it. And I got really excited when I saw that it was in Lexington because I've never been to Lexington, Kentucky, and I still won't because it's not in Kentucky. It's in Lexington, Illinois.
Oh, darn it.
Which is one of those places where you keep zooming out to get a frame of reference, and you got to zoom out to the entire state of Illinois till you figure out where the heck you are.
Yeah.
I love everything about this property. The train. Who am I kidding? I don't like the train.
Dude.
I don't like the carousel. You tell me the carousel's indoors. It's kind of creepy.
That's awesome.
You have an indoor carousel.
Airbnb, baby.
You know,
we're going to make so much money off of this thing in the middle of nowhere.
The train. I can't. They can't even figure out if it's 42 or 55 acres. There's like two different ways they're putting it in. On the market for 153 days, 430 saves. I'm not one that's going to save it. I'm out. I'm intrigued that it was built in 1890. Mm-hmm. Was this like the only house built in Illinois in 1890?
Yeah, like did they own the whole state?
When was Abraham Lincoln born? Was he? That was.
It's a good question. Not a historian.
He was assassinated in 64, 65. Okay, so then this house came after him. Okay, so Illinois, you had some things happening. You were a state before 1890, but
yeah.
Cool from the history perspective, but 4.5 million can get you a lot in Illinois, and I'm taking my money and I'm probably leaving Illinois.
Yeah, no, I've always wanted to move to Illinois in the middle of nowhere, and I'm retiring. I'm just gonna go and. This is going to be the end, and we're just going to ride the train, jump in the pool, ride the carousel, and enjoy life. So I think that's, it's my future, I guess. I just bought it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Lincoln, for those wondering, was born February 12th, 1809 in Hodgensville, Kentucky. So he wasn't even born in Illinois. Wasn't he an Illinois senator? Am I just making things up?
I have no idea.
You don't know what state Abraham Lincoln was a senator of?
I'm sorry, it's really bad of me, but I don't.
Dude, I feel like he was Connecticut. Okay. So anyways, I'm like 1,000% sure. No, just like the Reddit commenter, I'm 100,000% sure Abraham Lincoln was a senator for Illinois. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section down below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.